Welcome, everyone. My name is Aaron Snyder. I'm here with Justin Shestok, who is one of the co owners of Touch of Phoenix Elite Massage in Reading, Pennsylvania. Um, just a little of who I am. Justin and I are longtime friends and collaborators. So today we're going to sit down and reflect on his career, his journey as a massage therapist so far, some of his specialization in TMJ and what he's working toward in the future of his practice. Justin, it's good to see you. I'm excited to be here and looking forward to diving in a little bit on all these different topics, your career, your massage practice. So, to start off, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your business, Touch of Phoenix Elite Massage? How long have you been open and how is your practice set up?
Yeah, so my business partner and I, Sarah, we opened Touch of Phoenix Elite Massage in 2019. I would say we're like a more therapeutic focused office, in the sense that like we see clients for like pain and dysfunction management as opposed to like hobbyists or folks looking just for like a relaxing massage in like a spa environment. Sarah and I share a basis in Swedish massage, which is like it's basically like an umbrella term for a like a basically like a set of techniques that you learn to like complete, what is known as a Swedish massage. So we share that basis of knowledge. Sarah has studied medical cupping, so she integrates like suction into her sessions as opposed to just pushing on the muscle tissue. Sarah has techniques to pull the muscles as well, which is really interesting. So Sarah does that, and then for about the last year and a half or so, I've been developing a focus into TMJ dysfunction treatments. So anybody that has like headaches or like jaw clicking or popping, things like that, we can easily like take care of those issues. So we've been open for about going on about 7 years now.
That's awesome. 7 years is definitely a pretty big milestone. It sounds like you and Sarah have built this business, but also started to find your niches and kind of your sweet spot in massage therapy and that practice here. Um, and massage is not always talked about as a form of healthcare here in the U.S. Like you said, a lot of people look at that as more of that spa or therapeutic atmosphere versus working through those dysfunctions and different treatments to help with medical issues. So I know for you, you were introduced to massage as healthcare early on in your life. So can you share a bit about how that uh, influenced you in pursuing this career?
Yeah, of course. Like to your point, a lot of people you talk to in, if you're trying to sell massage as a therapy, maybe to somebody who isn't, just kind of sold on it or doesn't understand really why it can help them. Many of those individuals are coming from a school of thought where it's like it's kind of like a treat, it's extra, it's something you get as like a birthday gift or a gift for Christmas, something like this. However, when I was growing up, I basically saw my mom. It was probably like every month, maybe it was like every 2 months or so. She would go for a massage, and it was pretty well understood. It was like for treating headaches and like shoulder discomfort that she had. She worked at a local YMCA, so it's just a lot of like desk work and hunching over, writing, filling out forms, things like this. She had a lot of shoulder girdle discomfort, so the massages relieved that, and that was just kind of understood. It was like it was part of the schedule. It was just like in the conversation, like, oh, mom has a massage after work and yada yada. We gotta figure that out. So it was her getting like some type of results with that, so that was kind of cool, or like she enjoyed it in some way, right? And then through and and this is how you and I know each other. Like we go back to Danny Boone High School, Danny Boone cross country. That was kind of where I first like had my first massage, where it was like, oh, whatever it was, like towards the end of the season, like big meets or like big races or whatever it was, like trying to prep for that. And it was, hey, like if you're sore, like would you like to try massage? And it was a really great experience. I felt like it really helped. It was really enjoyable. Even in my mind now, like I'm endeared to the woman who gave me my first massage. It was like very enjoyable. I still remember it in a lot of ways. Like it was a very positive experience for me. So these are the types of things I start thinking about when thinking about like early massage experience.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And a lot of those experiences that we go through in younger years, whether they initially are our focus, kind of can come back around. Whether it would be someone who maybe had a similar experience as you, going and getting massage for themselves to treat things like your mom was doing, or in your case, going on and making this a career here. But like many people, myself included, you didn't start off on that path initially for massage therapy. You went to Bloomsburg University for college, but decided that you weren't going to finish your degree there. That's a pretty big decision to make, and so a pretty big change in life. What do you think about when you're reflecting on that time of your life, and how the decisions you made then led you to your massage therapy career now?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like when I think about it now, I just think of like, man, just trusting your gut. Like there were just so many cues, so many basically like red flags in the environment that just told me, hey man, this probably isn't for you. You're like not focusing on the right things. A lot of my, I'll just say like self-destructive behavior from my teenage years, unfortunately, like carried into that stage of my life. I didn't have strong life skills once you're out like living by yourself in an apartment. There's actually a lot that goes into just kind of staying healthy in that regard, and I think I was missing out on a lot of them. So not to so like to not be negative about it, you just think like, okay, well, I just took those as red flags and trusted my gut and said like, hey, let's just try and make a change here. Like one great example, like this stands out in my mind of just like all-time worst moves that you can do at college. It's like, dude, it's like the epitome of like live action role playing as a college student. So the one professor that I was like endeared to or really enjoyed was my philosophy professor. Like we're just talking about things that were just like interesting to me. And that they have office hours. As a student, you should be using your office hours to like talk to the professor and whatever.
Mm.
I was like not getting great grades. I probably hadn't even shown up for class. And I remember one day just thinking like, oh, like I'll go to his office hours one time. That's going to fix everything. And I walked in and I just asked the most pretentious questions and took up just so much of this guy's time. I didn't know how to learn. I didn't know how to be in that type of environment. I literally remember asking him like, "Hey man, like in all of your time as a philosophy professor, it's all about questions. Did you ever get any answers?" And I don't even remember what he said back.
Mm.
Right? So it's just like, man, you're approaching this from not the proper angles. So I took the opportunities and like kind of got out of that environment. The best thing that I can say from that time is the lessons that I learned after leaving Bloomsburg at the chimney sweeping business that I like literally by the grace of God, like just pure luck, happenstance, like literal Deus Ex Machina moment of just like my life is about to end, and you get a call from somebody that's like, "Hey man, is your life about to end? Don't do that. Like I've got the solution for you." It's like, great, I'm on board. Like just crazy in that regard. So I really learned a lot from that job, but it was it was like from a position of like it was from a position of shame. Like I never had any self-confidence there. I always felt like I owed somebody something, right? Like it
Mm,
wasn't my own making. You get what I'm saying? So
yeah.
a very tumultuous time, both like leading up to leaving school and then in that like 2 years of working at the chimney place.
Yeah, and so 2 years of working there, that's a significant amount of time, and obviously, as you grow a little bit older, especially in the real working world, and getting some of that experience, you do start to figure out kind of what you want or maybe what you don't want in that sense. And so then you end up leaving the chimney company. You kind of come to that fork in the road there of which way do you want to go with your future, and you have to make that big decision at that point.
Yeah, and it was like unfortunately, I think I would get in my own way. Like I sometimes the decision wasn't mine. I just knew what my heart wanted, and kind of the cards like then played themselves. For example, he like there was a stretch where I was like kind of a model employee. I was improving, I was learning, I was showing him that like I could be like a, you know, like a long-term solution for him as like a business owner. And then he asked me, like, I literally will never forget this. He asked me on a Friday. I was like packing up my stuff to go do like my Chinese delivery thing because I'm like, just scrounging around, you know. And he's like, "Hey, is there a time where you like just quit doing delivery and like commit to me?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, like I'll have to think about that." The very next time like that I go to work for him, probably like the next Monday or whatever, yeah, I just sleep in, never wake up for my shift, and he, you know, and then it's like all over. So my heart decided, I was like, well, what's better than quitting is like getting fired, you know, that's fine. So I just say it to say it was less of a like intentional choice made with care and planning, and just like kind of like flying by the seat of my pants in some ways. However, what I did know was now like, okay, great, I'm in that position of like basically being at zero. At this time, another Deus Ex Machina moment. My dad is going to move to Georgia for his own work and like a change in his own thing. So I was like, great. I'll just I'll just tag on with him, right? I'll just go with him. I'll figure something out. He says, well, it's not going to be a vacation. Obviously, you're not just like going to hang out in Georgia on my dime. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just go to school then. Wait, wait, didn't you just drop out of school, my man? Right? However, this is when you come to learn, like, well, I have to educate myself in something, right? And now you combine all of the, well, a vocational job isn't so bad, like a trade isn't so bad, you know, yada yada. What's good? Well, here we go. Let's find a massage school, and that's what it got all. That's what it got all rolling. Was my dad like going to move to Georgia? But I used in some ways I used that as like a jumping off point to like make a move.
Yeah, and it's a point where you're finally kind of looking to make that decision for yourself. You're looking and seeking something out. Um, and so I imagine that made taking on going back to school feel a little different than your initial time going to school at Bloomsburg. So what really do you feel like changed the most, and made you feel like this was going to be a different story going back to school?
Yeah, it's interesting. So like and I think you nailed it, cuz like it was my choice. So there's part of growing up in, you know, East Side PA It's just kind like you're just kind of told you just start looking for schools when you're like sophomore, junior. You just will go to college, because like my parents are of that what would you say, like generation, just like they were just in that class, of like whatever my dad did. So
Mhm.
they just kind of, they just tell you you're going to college. It's like, okay, well, so some of it fell out of my hands.
Mhm.
However, this now it's like, okay, life has prompted you here. What, like, if you would have to choose an education, what would it be? And let's go this route. So I think it was purely just like, okay, this is my choice now. I understand why I need this, right? So there's also like an
Mhm.
understanding of what you get at the end of it. It's not just like, oh, I'm like supposed to be here and like try and figure it out. It's like, no, no, like this is to basically go to work at the end of it. So my paradigm of work had shifted, like just my understanding of work had shifted. And then also I was able to kind of deshackle myself of like, oh, like I don't want to be told what to do. It's like, well, like everybody's got to work. Like everybody's got to pay your bills. So like figure it out. Like don't just crowd your dad in Georgia, basically. So it was like those combination of things.
Yeah, and having that um experience in the workforce and all to know what that might look like after your education, I think definitely helps. There's a lot of unknown when you're an 18-year-old going off to college, whether it's by choice or pressure or that it's what you're supposed to do. So now you had that experience on kind of what the other side could look like. And then you get to build that for yourself. So going back to school, where did you end up going to study and become a licensed massage therapist? And what did that education process look like?
Yeah, so I can tell you a little bit about what school looked like. So in national massage therapy, you have to like, no matter what state you live in, you have to sit for like X amount of hours of class. So I went to Berks Technical Institute of Reading, Pennsylvania. Nice little campus, offered a bunch of other uh vocations, I guess would be the term. Yeah,
Mm,
offered a bunch of other vocations there. The massage program was pretty solid, quite rigorous actually. The program that I did was like 900 hours or so, like give or take. Where like some states only require 500 or like 600 hours or whatever. The BTI curriculum was actually quite comprehensive.
mm,
We did a hands-on apprenticeship at the end of schooling. That was like, I want to say it was like 90 hours or so, maybe it was like 100 hours. But that was towards the end. Once we had all of our base knowledge down, then we could go and apply it. And there was like a variety of different locations that the school was partnered with. You could go to this place over here. They had like a couple chiropractor offices. That's where I went. I went to a chiro office. But to talk a little more about the program, we hit a whole bunch of just like biologies, like sciences, right? So there's a comprehensive knowledge base, anatomy and physiology, biology, massage theory, and history, and then like a bunch of like secondary type classes that you would factor as like electives, basically. These were like
mm,
your aromatherapies, your spa therapy. So, you learn how to do, like a paraffin wax dip, for people's hands. You wrap them in the blanket, you rub their feet, like all that type of stuff. Because there is value in those treatments. Like
mm,
they are very nice, and it's good to know them. One funny thing I can tell you, and like this is like the stark comparison of like where my mind was now, like at this point in my, let's say, education versus like when I was at Bloomsburg. So I had a group of friends that were like studying to be nurses, and they would always have their massive textbook stacks, and they're like, oh, this is my anatomy and physiology stack, like, oh, I have lecture and blah blah blah. They'd always be doing their flashcards, literally just X's over their eyes, just like doing flashcards like for A&P. Talking about it like it was like this Voldemort type class, right? And here I am just like 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%, literally just like just cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. because my mindset was totally different. Where
Mhm.
previously this would have been a class that I would have no idea how to do flashcards. How do I study? What am I even doing here? Now it was almost as though I was built for it in some way. It was like a totally different educational experience. Um, so I always thought that that one was funny, like something that was like previously would have just been terrifying, felt super easy. So then at the end of the education, then you have to sit for a national exam to like actually get your license in hand so you can have your diploma from BTI but not have a practicing massage license. And that's like the worst
Mm.
place to be in, obviously. So you have to sit for a national exam, get a passing grade. That's called the MBLEX exam. Could I tell you what it stands for now? No. That's just like the boogeyman, you know, little acronym for it that, oh, you know, y'all all have to pass this. So in a class that started, my class probably had 25 people starting. By the end of the program that were like in the like exam prep section, there were probably 9 people, and then passing, I think only maybe 4 or 5 passed out of the 9 people that took it. So it was like I'll be honest with you, like it was a pretty rigorous it was a pretty rigorous curriculum. Obviously, like not everybody could do it. So yeah, it was not bad. I looking back, I think I got a pretty good education.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds like you are getting a lot of that education, but also the rigorous nature of it kind of forces you to really commit to it, which it sounds like you did. I mean, you're if you're going to be going back to school, spending all of this time, all of this energy, and all learning those different courses and studies to get your license, like you said, graduating from BTI is not the end goal. It's getting that certification so that you can practice in the real world. So by kind of uh, forcing you to lock in on that, you're making sure for yourself that you weren't wasting your time going through this and that you were going to be successful there. Um, and so going through that process, obviously with all the different courses, did you get a good feel of what kind of specialization or techniques you were drawn to, or even turned off by at that point in time, or was that something that you kind of developed as you were working doing massage as a licensed massage therapist?
Yeah, I think it developed overall. I think what I was getting a sense for more was what I didn't like as opposed to what I did like. Because I think what I would end up learning is the techniques that I liked were ones that were effective. The
Mm.
things that could make a muscle relax the fastest slash like the best, basically, right? So those are the techniques that I would come to learn, like that I would like, but I quickly figured out what I didn't like. For example, like a hot stone massage is the worst thing to do and the worst thing to receive, barring maybe like a lomi lomi massage. Because now I know what that feels like, and I would only opt into that like on a warm Hawaiian beach somewhere. Like, yeah, no, sir. Thank you. So there are some styles of massage and some styles of sessions that, yeah, I just forget that I learned. Like I know that they exist, but they're not in my like they're just nowhere near my tool belt. For example, there's a technique called like the it's like the rainbow technique. Or I'm misspeaking. It's called the raindrop technique. And it's where you use like essential oils and you like drop them at the like chakra points on the body, and it's like this
Mm.
whole thing. But all I ever took away from that is like, yeah, this whole room just smells like a hoagie. Like, is that just what I'm doing to these clients, right? So like, I can't get over that type of stuff because
Mm.
I don't like it done to me. So I'm not gonna want to do it to somebody else. So I basically figured out just what I didn't enjoy, and it was a lot of that type stuff, like the essential oils, maybe. And this isn't to be critical. I've even heard massage therapists who are this way even kind of like identify this way. So in some way I think there's like power to it. There's massage therapists who use some like woo woo is kind of like you'll hear it referred to like
Mhm.
colloquially as like, oh, like that's a bit woo woo if you ask me. In my opinion, that's like the essential oils and things like this. So I basically learned what I didn't enjoy versus like what I would be using in the future.
Yeah, and I imagine that there are things that are beneficial to that, and in a lot of ways, the um, woo woo kind of nature of some of those practices, I'm sure, is um, it puts the client at ease if they have a certain philosophy on life, and so there's probably even a benefit in the relaxation of just them experiencing that and feeling for themselves that it does something and puts them at ease. But obviously, like you said, I think learning what you don't enjoy definitely helps just as much if not more than kind of figuring out specifically what you do want to do. And so with uh
Because one thing I'll add in is like part of the massage school is we were having a massage done to us every day as well as like we were practicing the thing every day. So
right.
whatever we were learning, like we were having it done to us. And obviously, everybody has things that they enjoy more or less. So by having it done to us, day in and day out, you kind of figure out what works, what you like, and these things. It's not just seeing a video saying like, "Oh, I wouldn't like that." It's like, "No, no, I was the one that smelled like a hoagie."
Yeah, and I think you also you understand from those experiences that to know what the client is feeling, you kind of have to understand how those techniques feel. And so if
Exactly.
you don't like the feel of that, that's not something that you're going to want to have practiced on you to gain that knowledge and all as well. So it definitely makes sense kind of directing yourself in other directions when you come across that. But with your courses and your education at Berks Technical Institute, you also mentioned the hands-on internship being partnered with some local businesses. Um, how did that real-world experience um, shape what you wanted to specialize in?
So there's a lot here that I could go into. Basically it just sums up to like real world, real business, like working in the field in your uh chosen, oh, I already said it, yeah, vocation or field is just the best thing. You can be told something, but experiencing that or something similar, experience is just the best thing. So I think that's what I would just start off by saying. But I think the maybe a little bit more zoomed in aspect of that is specifically where went to was a chiropractor office. There was a doctor there who like really helped kind of shape my thinking about treating clients and like your bedside manner, what we're here to do, like more of like the theory and the philosophy behind like being who we are and like doing what we do. So like in massage school, you take the Hippocratic Oath, which a lot of people would tell you like it's kind of outdated at this point. There's like in like the full Hippocratic Oath, there's things about like bloodletting and whatever. But at the core of the Hippocratic Oath, it is do no harm. I will not work in a way that hurts the people that have come to me because I've said that I can help. I cannot hurt you. Like that is like the high ethical standard that we're like held to. Doctors take this, nurses take like it's like a thing in medicine. So even us as massage therapists, like we are ascribed to that ideal. So there's a doctor at this chiropractor office that really kind of helped me kind of lock in my own theories about practice and the world. And it was the highest efficacy treatments were rewarded. Like the best thing that you could do for people is make them feel better in 5 minutes, not 5 minutes 3 times a week for the next 2 weeks, like the quicker you can make people feel better, just the better it's going to be for everybody, right? So often the types of techniques that like I was taught, the ideas, it wasn't about like how nice you were. Like it's just about being effective. You don't care
Mm,
about invasive or whatever. We would do and learn some like really intense things to get results like in the now, right? That
mm,
now I know those things have to be used very sparingly. You have to talk to people, you have to treat people like humans. But, you know, again, like you just learn a whole lot in an
mm,
environment such as that. So I think that was really valuable. One thing that I've debated going back and forth on, like whether it's valuable to this conversation, I've decided that it's relevant and valuable to the conversation. During my schooling, I was exploring the idea of like critical thinking and basically like learning how to learn. How do you make things like how do you make things like matter to you in a way that you will like retain them and then be able to use them? So not only was I getting just an insane amount of real world experience, but I was also trying to like form my own paradigms. I was basically trying to like utilize the plasticity of my brain to, it sounds silly, but in some ways, like I was trying to make myself smarter in like a vacuum, right? I was trying to really hone in and like turn what I felt like I felt like I had a mushy brain. I was trying to like mold it, right? So that came from a lot of different angles. One of them was like the independent study on the side. The other angle was this doctor that I got to work very closely with, and she taught me a whole heck of a lot.
yeah, and I mean it is definitely a combination of those things, but that speaks again to your personal want to go back and choose that education. You were choosing it, and you wanted to ensure that you were really learning the things. You weren't just getting them into your brain to pass an exam and then out the next day. And so with that education, the hands-on all coming together, um, what kind of work were you able to do at the apprenticeship and all that kind of continued to form that education? Obviously, you said the different treatments, you were just trying to be as effective and quick. But what did that look like a little bit?
Yeah, so when I talk about like working closely with a doctor, I can explain what the apprenticeship looked like. So it was basically just simple chiropractic assistant work. So muscle work, stretching, and like temperature treatment, and just like cleaning up of the rooms, just like spraying tables down
Mm,
and stuff like this. So the muscle work was in spirit of the adjustments that the chiropractors would provide. So like let's say you have, like you come in for like low back adjustments, we'll and this factors in the temperature treatment. We would have used like heating pads, or let's say like swelling is part of like, let's say you have, I apologize for repeating myself, like if swelling is part of your issue, we'll use like an ice pack or whatever. But the idea is get the area that is affected, injured, or whatever, get it ready for work from the chiropractor, whether they're going to get an adjustment or some type of like more advanced muscle work. That was left up to the doctor, but we would basically just like get people ready. A lot of people, their prep was just like we would just stretch them out. So we would take them through like a low back protocol, or like we'll just like stretch out your shoulders or your neck or whatever. And then you would get once I was hired there, once I was certified as a licensed massage therapist, they offered me a position once I was working there. Then you get like massage hours. So you can actually do, 90-minute or an hour sessions on clients, and they basically just like fill up your book. So it was a lot of, like I said, that chiropractic assistant work, and then some massages where I was, coming up with the flow of the massage, what we were going to do. And that looked a lot like, those were very like Swedish massages. I was trying to incorporate like a little bit of muscle work, a little bit of stretching where we could, treat the areas that we were, working on in the chiropractic side. So you would
Mm.
basically like develop rapport with these clients by seeing them on the chiropractic side and then saying like, hey, we offer massage here if you want to do that. Let's get in my schedule. And then through that chiropractor assisted work, I worked with one doctor primarily, right? So
Mm.
me and this individual, we got a really good working relationship, and I was cut from the like the restaurant cloth, right? So I was really ready for high pressure, high like intensity environment where, bro, these night shifts were crazy, dog. They were crazy. Like the amount of people that would come through that office like at night was wild. And you had to do them all. You had to see all of them, right? So it
Mm.
was like this high intensity environment. But yeah, that was the basics of it.
Gotcha. So after kind of building some experience there, you were there for just about 2 years before opening Touch of Phoenix Elite Massage. Um, and that obviously is a pretty big step to take so early into your working experience and everything. So what were the decisions that kind of led to you make or deciding to open your own practice so quickly after you got licensed?
Knowing what I know now, you would say it was the consistent breach of professional boundaries that like pushes you to make irrational decisions or like forced decisions, right? So and I basically alluded to it earlier. Like the environment was insanely high stress, and like high turnover. So we would see like just a bunch of employees that couldn't hack it, and so your job gets harder because they can't keep employees in the door, right?
Mm.
So there was this tension between, yeah, this is like a really nice place to get experience and help people. Your book is pretty big. You have a bunch of like open cases basically, which is pretty cool. However, it's like an unsustainable environment. So one of the friends who I had made there, this is Sarah, the co-owner of Touch of Phoenix. We cook up a plot. We're gonna pull a caper, and we decide like, hey, we just have to go out on our own. We think we're experienced enough. We have at least some clients who we know will follow us. This is poaching, basically. Call us TSM, whatever. However, we did know that it was going to be the right fit to like go out to go out on our own. Yeah, I can tell you about my last night there. I remember messaging my boss. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to say where we were at. I remember messaging my boss and just saying, "Hey, look, I'm really concerned about the schedule. It's like really packed." And silly me, I was always concerned with like client care. I knew that if you have X amount of people coming in the door, like I can literally only give each person like 35 seconds of my time before I just have to be on to the next. And basically, like I need that chair that you're sitting in, right?
Mm.
To like keep like it's just an endless flow of people. Man, it
Mm.
would take me back to like my ice cream scooping days where like that it felt like that line never ended. Like on a summer night, 8:30
Mm.
p.m., that is it. That is an infinite line of people. And that's just what it felt like at the chiropractic office too.
Mm.
So you're put in a position where that oath that you made to do no harm, in my opinion, it was actually under threat. Because like you actually couldn't spend time with these people, and that's what really mattered. So I messaged my boss and I said, hey, look, I'm really concerned about the schedule. She sends me back this line, right? And I'm just like, All right, fine. So I just grabbed my bag, packed up my coat. I said, you know what? If it's not so busy of a schedule, you deal with it. And then that was my last night there, and I just left. So I do have a history of like, I'm not a 2 week notice guy. I get that. I'm not a 2 week notice guy. But yeah, these were just like the things that were right in my heart, and that's what I'm saying. Like I just trusted my gut every single time.
Yeah, and you really have to, I think. If a company decides that you're not the right fit for them, they don't give you a 2 week notice that they're letting you go. So obviously, there's a professional courtesy there, but that's what it is. It's a courtesy, and after bringing that your concerns to their attention and just having them brushed off, I think that at that point, whatever you feel is best for you is an okay decision. You didn't just decide, hey, I looked at the schedule, I don't feel good about this, I'm gonna head out. You at least made that attempt. So you have to give yourself a little bit of credit for that. But
I mean,
uh,
I'm obviously like joking,
oh, of
mostly.
course. Yeah, but so looking back at that and looking back at the early days of starting your own practice and Touch of Phoenix in the beginning there, I'm sure you went through a lot of different bumps in the road and struggles. So what are some of those things that you and Sarah experienced opening your business together? Especially a medical practice where you had some clients that, like you said, were going to follow you because of the care that you gave them, um, but not having that same full book that you were used to.
Yeah, I think like to that point, one of the biggest struggles early on, and these were like really early days, is a lot of clients who told us they would follow didn't.
Mm,
Or we saw them maybe once and then just never again. So I think early on it was tough to like get the book filled up. We were also trying to deal with like just getting the LLC set up, and that's not the most obvious thing. But thankfully like Sarah had a little bit of pre knowledge to that. So like that wasn't awful. She was able to help in a lot of that regard. We get the back end set up, but it took us like a little bit to find an accountant to get like taxes and finance stuff, just to have somebody to help. So a lot of those struggles were difficult. I think a lot of it was just like getting the book filled up, like how do we get people to like know we're here and things like that. So
mm,
yeah, basically just like marketing struggles and things like this. We had to kind of downsize a little bit in some of the like financial commitments that we had made. So like trying to shift and change in that regard. So that was more like on the business side, and then from a practice side, what I actually came to realize was this like jack of all trades style that you learn in school and basically at the chiropractic office that I was at. Like you would always be learning some new thing and new like everybody was trying to hit you like with the new kung fu that you should be using. Like this is, like all that type of stuff. And
mm,
it is like, brother, I will tell you, it is just analysis or paralysis analysis.
mm,
Like, you just didn't know what you were supposed to be doing. So, in some ways, I think I experienced like a bit of a high, like right after we like opened up for ourselves. I think I was able to like retain a lot of maybe what I had learned, but then, man, there was a sharp drop off, probably somewhere around the like maybe 2.5 year range,
mm.
where I took some big losses with clients, just like big hits to your confidence, your whatever it is, and really made me question like, man, like what is going wrong? What am I doing wrong? So yeah, a bit of a crisis of identity as well, as we were starting into, the Touch of Phoenix era, you could say.
Gotcha. And so having that realization is a little bit jarring, I'm sure. So, how did you refocus at that point? And what kind of technical approach did you go from or take on from there, um, to not be that jack of all trades, but more of that master of one, instead of master of none?
Yeah, so like the things that I liked doing, I wasn't able to make work in that like just massage setting where when you just have a few minutes with somebody, it's easy to like Man, I'll be honest with you, like, there's a bit of a performative element at the chiropractic office. Like, there's sometimes where you would have to be like working on somebody and their whole family is just in the room. So like in some ways there was a pressure to almost like kind of be entertaining or like you like try and hit them with a bunch like a little bit of knowledge or like, you'll like over embellish a technique or whatever to make it like look like you're doing something. Like you get what I'm saying.
Mm,
So some of basically some of the things that were covering up my weaknesses now are just like exposed, right? So the things the techniques that you would want to use aren't as easily translatable to the like on the table massage experience, right? So you run into this problem of like, yeah, like these techniques are like decent or they're fun or they're like good to use, but you need the right clients and the problems to do them on. I felt like it was this technical approach. While I did like it, it was this like square peg into circle hole like type scenario. You know what I mean?
definitely. And having a wide range of clients, and also all of these different techniques that you've learned, figuring out what to apply, is definitely difficult. So, um, working through that time period and developing some more focused skill sets, and gaining that experience, um, what did that look like to kind of bring you towards where you are now with the practice?
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. So, man, so I can be like pretty specific about this. So one of the first things I realized I was doing wrong, fundamentally, I had like a pressure and a leverage problem. I had developed what I had learned to be like really bad habits early on that were causing me to not apply as much leverage as I had available. In some ways, I was like pulling my punches, but in the worst way possible. Like I wasn't even helping anybody by doing it, right? What I ended up actually doing was like damaging my thumbs, damaging my wrists, and actually like damaging my relationship with my clients. Like I could not apply the like pressure and leverage that like some clients were asking for, and then they just never come back. So that was one thing that I was doing wrong that you have to look at and say like, okay, well, how do I change this fundamental way that I was going about massage? Like it's going to work for some people and or like it's not going to matter, right? Like you can retain
Mm,
some clients, but the amount of people that didn't come back or like that was part of maybe the like after conversation where they're like, yeah, like I was hoping for a little more pressure or whatever. It's like, bro, you couldn't imagine the amount of times I've heard that, you know? So you have to start looking at it. Another one of the issues was draping. I would err on the side of fear and modesty so as like not to make somebody uncomfortable. But then I would make like bad choices during the massage to where like, okay, well, if you're not draping fully, then you can't work the area that may need it well, therefore you don't get results. So in some ways like working out of fear was one of those things I had to look at. And then this goes like to the pressure and the leverage is just body mechanics. How am I standing? Like what do my arms look like? What do my shoulders look like? All of these things like go to like giving a good massage, right? So then you realize, okay, cool, I have a bunch of stuff to work on. Now, what are other therapists doing instead of these things? So you get to, read the work of better therapists, try and apply it to your own practice. That's where the continuing education comes in. If you actually like try and learn something from the continuing education, you can actually like improve outcomes, for you and your clients. So I would actually take that stuff to heart, try and learn something, try and, like, oh, how can I work this area of the body better? Like, is there like a little bit of a protocol that I can learn to like work the ankle more completely or whatever it is, right? So you basically just drop the ego and say like, holy, I was just going about this like the wrong way. Let me just try and like basically just reset, right? So
Hmm.
these are all the things that I was looking at and actively trying to change. And then you get the massive light bulb in 2024. You get the piano on top of your head, the anvil from the canyon, where it's just like niche your way to success. Be the only guy in the area that's doing this thing. This idea came to me like a lightning bolt, and I just immediately tried to put it into practice. It's like, okay, what are we going to do? Taking some experience from my own life, the TMJ dysfunction was likely going to be the way to go. That year, there's a class, in the area from a doctor of chiropractic who's teaching the class. I'll be able to mobilize people's jaws. And I'm like, okay, cool. So here we go. Let's like develop a focus within massage that can put all of these other problems to rest, can ignore the self-confidence issues. I'll no longer be a jack of all trades. Here I am. You've got a jaw problem. I can fix that,
Yeah,
right? So it was basically end of 2024 that we were able to capitalize on the learnings that we had done basically through like mid 24 from like call it 2022 because COVID hit hard, bud. COVID hit hard. Like
hmm,
small business that's about like being this close to your face and like touching you for an hour. Man, we struggled hard. So like that was a big problem. But with the focus, it's been a big change.
that's awesome, and I think it's great that you were able to find that focus. It also again speaks to kind of your the way you had reframed your outlook on education, where these continuing education courses. I know you've mentioned to me that they're required for you to do a certain number of hours yearly to maintain your license and everything. So I'm sure there are some people who just pick something that they already know or that they think is going to be quick and easy to just get those hours out of the way, and you really took that opportunity um to really take the education to heart and to grow your knowledge in that niche area with the TMJ specialization. And so when you have clients coming in for TMJ work and everything, what does that session look like, and how do you kind of um, develop a plan for your clients moving forward, to continue to have that retention and everything that you're looking for and that you need for the business?
Yeah, so I can share a little bit about what the like sessions and the approach now looks like. So one thing that's most important is a thorough intake process. You basically just want to get as much information on their problem as you can. What's your experience of it in your daily life? How does it affect you? Like when does it affect you? How severe is it? All of these type things you can get. You're basically getting like a medical history for whatever area of the body that is, so you can, as a massage therapist, we never diagnose anything. We never say like you have this thing. Like it's actually outside of our scope of practice. We're legally and ethically not allowed to do that, which is fine. But you can say like, okay, these are the identifying markers of like this type of injury. we can reasonably say that these might be the causes of whatever you have. If they have like a whiplash injury from like a car crash, it's like, yeah, that could definitely affect the jaw, give you headaches, things like this. So
Mm,
that's where you start a thorough intake process. You ask like, what did the doctor say the last time you were in? You basically just try and garner as much information about the process as you can. Included in that assessment, we want to take like a good like visual assessment of the muscles and the structures of the head, neck, and the jaw. There's also like palpatory tests that you can do. There's a couple pressure points on people's faces that, it's a little bit of massage wizardry. You can get, the oohs and the ahs. You can press on some places and say like, is that sore? They say yes. You press here, is that sore? They'll say yes. You're like, wow, like you've got, whatever. So there's a bunch of visual palpatory tests that you can do. One thing that I would actually say has told me I'm in my journeyman phase of my trade. Like, I'm hunting down 10,000 hours. I'm hunting down 10,000 hours. And I know, like, I'm not close, so I won't call myself a master, right? I know I'm in my journeyman phase. Like, I've got a lot to learn, right? But in that, the one thing that tells me that I've, like, learned is my visual assessments.
mm,
Like I can see things in you now. Like I know kind of what's happening just by looking at you. That's not
mm,
something I could do before, like in a meaningful way, right?
mm,
So these are the types of things that we're applying in the assessment. And then for actual treatment, I use what I call now, I don't know if anybody else refers to it as such, but it's just the guy that I learned this approach from. It just made a lot of sense to me. So I call it the Wasilowski method. I'm pretty sure the guy's name is James Wasilowski. He was a practicing therapist for a lot of years, very skilled. This is like from his textbook. This is like,
mm.
if you would go to him as a therapist, this is likely what he would do for your injuries. I'm sure he was much better at it than I am, but I'm working, right? I'm working at it. But I use what I call the Wasilowski method, which, to my best understanding, I should say how I understand it currently today, and we're recording, in March of 2026. It's you warm the muscles, you then perform a myofascial technique to the affected area. Myofascial is referring to the layer of connective tissue that houses all of your muscles. They have like a nice little sheath around all of them that's like it's
Mm,
like a tendinous connective tissue. A myofascial approach tries to work on that structure as well as the muscles in like some combined way. It tries to get the fascia moving as well as the muscle. So
mm,
you do that after you warm the muscle, and then you do in modern massage therapy. Most people will tell you now to do like multi-directional friction. That's probably like the height of understanding. Depending on the muscle fibers, what you want to do is just some type of friction. You can do like multi-directional where you're kind of rubbing in all directions, but you're trying to tease the muscle fibers apart, right?
mm,
Another common one that you can use is cross fiber friction. So when you're palpating muscles, like you can basically intimate what muscle you are on based on what direction the fibers are running, like what
okay.
other muscle structures or like bony structures they're pointing to. So if you feel that they're like vertical fibers, like your erector muscles of your back that run from the top of your pelvis up to the base of your skull, like those are vertical muscles, right? They're
Mm,
north and south. So cross fiber, to break those apart, you strum across them like a guitar. You do
ah,
horizontal friction, right?
yeah.
So some type of friction is indicated as the third step, be it multi-directional. Some people like that. Some people like the cross fiber. And then you apply a stretch to the muscle. This is looking to elongate those muscle fibers, bring them back into basically like closer to their natural habitat than they were previously.
Mm,
In my experience, this method, it gets results. by the end of like whatever, it usually takes about like 10 minutes to like sufficiently work a muscle. The muscles of the jaw, specifically the masseter, bro, I could talk for hours about the structure of the masseter. Like it's just a crazy muscle, by the way. So you need like crazy techniques to meet it where it's at, right? In some
Mhm.
ways you actually are trying to like bring fire to a firefight. So the Waslowski method is what I use to treat the TMJ, and we found that it gets significant results. So if you're coming to me for a TMJ session, like that's exactly what you could expect.
That's I mean that makes a lot of sense looking at the structure of that. Warming the muscles is from my understanding helps a lot with healing because you're increasing blood flow to the area and everything. Um, versus ice, which can be helpful with inflammation and pain, but doesn't necessarily help as much with that healing aspect. Past those kind of initial things. And so you've now been certified doing this work with TMJ, developing this expertise for a little over a year. Um, and how do you just reflect on the progress that you feel you've made both with yourself and clients in that time? Obviously it's short, like you said, you're working towards that 10,000 hours of experience, and to really feel like you are kind of a master of that. um, of course always with room to grow and learn new things, but yeah, how do you look back over the past year, since you've made that change to really focus on this?
I think one of the biggest things that's changed is like if you think about me as the therapist, I think one of the biggest things that's changed is just my confidence level. It is like back in some way where I lost it being pushed around by a client or two, taking some lumps. I think like that's the thing that's really back is because now I feel like I'm equipped with a really strong weapon against a problem that a lot of people suffer from. Like because I feel like I have like a really sharp sword, there's a confidence in the work now because and this is like through the grace of like the clients that I had allowing me to kind of like work through the process, say like, hey, I'd like to try this. I learned this new thing. Hey, can we take time and can we try and help in this specific way? So basically, like through the feedback of my clients, we were able to get this session to where it's at now, which is really cool. So that's brought a confidence, and then through that my per session results are so much better than they were previously, where it's like you're using high impact techniques that are being applied to specific muscles in a very specific way that's bringing relief to the area. That like allows me then to talk like I know very explicitly what we're doing. I can tell you why. I can tell you what muscles we're working on, right? Like I have a much more complete understanding of what I'm trying to do in massage, not what I think you want me to be doing to you for your massage. Like
Mhm.
the types of ideas that I would try to keep nested in my head were insane, right? Now I just no, like I just know what works and that's what we're going to do, right? And I
Yeah.
can just kind of I can illustrate that to people much better. So there's like the confidence element. There's the technique element. Like I just believe in the thing that I'm choosing to use now, and then the planning and the documentation allows us to just session to session. We just know right where we're at. I tell them a lot of times, like, I'll prompt for, like, hey, like, this is what I want to be working on. Like, the next time I see you, this is kind of the angle that we're going. So, having a plan, bringing the client on board with that plan just gets better results. Like, it's just better outcomes, right? So,
Mhm.
then now that even my existing clients are getting help seeing better outcomes, now the new clients are just seeing results much faster. There's no like learning period. You don't have to like you don't have to like get to know. It's just like, no, it just works now. Like you'll just get relief the
Mm.
first time you come and see me. You'll be like, damn, my jaw doesn't hurt anymore. Or you'll be like one of my favorite reviews. I have a client that says she gets to chew gum now because of me. It's like,
Yep.
wow, that's pretty powerful, right? Um, so these very like intended changes and focuses to my style, my practice, my massage. It's just getting better outcomes. I think is like a very neat way to kind of sum all that up.
Yeah, and it definitely makes sense that having the confidence in the techniques, you are able to say, "Hey, I've done this before. This has gotten me good results with other clients that show similar indications or symptoms to you." So it may not be what you've experienced before, what you're used to, but I know it's effective. And having that confidence behind what you're saying when you're talking to the clients, I'm sure really is beneficial with um, eh, getting them to allow you to work in that way that is giving them those results and you're seeing progress, and so that's really encouraging, especially hearing some of that feedback. I'm sure it's nice to get those reviews and messages about the progress that your clients have gotten from the work that you've done together, and so focusing and continuing with this growth of knowledge, gaining more and more experience in your specialization. I'm just excited to see and hear how things continue to go for you and Sarah with Touch of Phoenix in the coming years. Um, so before we wrap everything up here, I just want to give you the opportunity to put out any other ideas or things that you or thoughts you have about the business and all before we wrap up.
No, I think this pretty well covers it. I just wanted to thank you for doing the interview and helping us at Touch of Phoenix. I really appreciate you doing the interview. I just want to say thanks to anybody listening. Thanks to anybody who can maybe learn something about massage through this. If you are struggling with jaw or head pain, I can help. Look for us on massagebook.com, Touch of Phoenix Elite Massage. My name's Justin Shestok. Like I said, if you have jaw or head pain, I can help. So Aaron, yeah, thank you for taking your time to do the interview.
Absolutely, I'm happy to be a part of that here with you. And like you said, thanks everyone for joining us for this interview and reflection on Justin's career.
Thanks, everyone.